Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Udman Bhattacharya, coming up in the next hour. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara as forces backed by the US and Turkey clash in Syria. A day ahead of parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law, voices to impeach Yoon growing stronger. Opposition leader says impeaching Yoon best way to restore order. Aiming to boost infrastructure in North Indian city of Prayagraj, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate developmental projects, also to review preparations for the upcoming Mahakumbh Mela. Grateful nation remembers the martyrs on the 23rd anniversary of terrorist attack on the Parliament of India. In sports, India's Gukesh dethrones Ding Liren, becomes world's youngest chess champion. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the remarkable feat. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Turkey on Thursday for talks focused on establishing stability in Syria. Blinken met President Tayyip Erdogan at Ankara's Esenboga airport after visiting Jordan on his first trip to the region since Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government was ousted on Sunday. Erdogan and Blinken discussed the latest developments in Syria, with Erdogan calling on the international community to work together for the reconstruction of institutions in Syria. Erdogan also told Blinken that Turkey would take preventive measures in Syria for its national security against all organizations and teams of terrorists, adding that Ankara would not allow any weakness in the fight against Islamic State. Blinken noted the shared interest of the US and Turkey in supporting a Syrian-led political transition to an accountable and inclusive government. Blinken will meet Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan on Friday. With a view to establishing order in a newly liberated Syria, Jordan is going to organize a Syria Crisis Summit over the weekend. The summit will have participation of foreign ministers from numerous Western and Arab nations, including Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Lebanon, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Turkey, USA, the EU's foreign policy chief, and the UN envoy for Syria. Jordan Foreign Ministry announced on Thursday that the summit will take place on Saturday in Amman. The Saturday summit will discuss developments in Syria in the perspective of various groups fighting against each other to take control of certain areas after Syria's President Bashar al-Assad fled the country by almost surrendering to the rebels supported by both USA and Turkey. The first of the 75 Indian nationals evacuated from Syria reached Delhi, and this is not the first evacuation of its nationals by India. It has earlier also successfully executed multiple evacuation operations for its citizens in crisis zones. From Yemen to Ukraine, these missions have showcased India's diplomatic agility and dedication to its citizens' safety abroad.
India has demonstrated a strong commitment to the safety and well-being of its citizens abroad, particularly during times of geopolitical crises. Various operations in the past few years highlight the country's diplomatic agility and logistical capabilities in evacuating nationals from conflict zones. Let's look at some of the notable operations. 2011 Operation Homecoming. This operation evacuated 15,400 Indian nationals from Libya during its internal conflict. 2014 Kerala Nurses Rescue. The Indian government successfully brought back 46 nurses trapped in Iraq's Tikrit, ensuring their safe return from areas controlled by ISIS. 2015 Operation Rahat. Over 4,000 Indians and foreign nationals were evacuated from Yemen amid the civil war, facilitated by a call from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Saudi King. 2020 Operation Samudra Setu. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indian Navy rescued around 4,000 Indians stranded at sea, covering over 23,000 kilometers. 2020 to 2022, Operation Vande Bharat Mission. This was one of the largest civilian evacuation efforts, facilitating the return of nearly 2.97 crore Indians from abroad during the pandemic. 2021, Operation Devi Shakti. Following the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, India rescued 669 individuals, including Indian nationals and members of the Afghan Hindu and Sikh minority community. 2022, Operation Ganga. Over 22,500 Indians were evacuated from Ukraine amid the conflict, with extensive airlift operations conducted. 2023, Operation Kaveri. In response to conflict in Sudan, this operation successfully evacuated over 3,000 Indians from various locations within the country.
These operations reflect India's proactive stance in ensuring the safety of its citizens in crisis situations, showcasing the effective coordination between various government agencies and diplomatic channels. With Person Piyush, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Voices to impeach South Korean President Yoon are going stronger and louder ahead of a parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law, as the opposition leader Lee Jae-myung said that the best way to restore order in the country is to impeach President Yoon. Yoon's decision to impose military rule on the 3rd of December, even if rescinded within 6 hours, seems to have triggered a major crisis in South Korea. Lee called Yoon's remarks a declaration of war against the people and added that impeachment is the fastest and the most effective way to end the confusion. Yoon vowed to fight till the end, blaming the opposition party for paralyzing the government. He also claimed that a North Korean hack into the election commission made his party's crushing defeat in an April parliamentary election questionable. Yoon survived the first attempt to impeach him last Saturday, when most of his ruling People's Power Party boycotted the vote. My colleague Amrit Mukherjee now joins us from New Delhi. Amit, President Yoon has defended his shock decision to declare martial law. Now, there is a second vote that is coming in Parliament to impeach him on Saturday. So what are the possibilities now?
Well, Munmun, if you look at the situation, President Yoon has become completely defiant. In fact, he has become an embarrassment for his own party. In fact, last time when the impeachment vote had happened, his own party supported him, although they did not support him continuing as a president, but they did not support the impeachment process. So they wanted to give him some sort of a dignified exit, which is why they had boycotted that impeachment process, following which President Yoon actually, he survived that whole process of impeachment. But now it's quite clear that for his own party, he has become a complete sort of a, embarrassment, and his own party doesn't want him to stay in power anymore. And in fact, they are now backing the impeachment process and saying suspending the rights of the president through impeachment is the only way how they can, the way they can remove the president now. So it's quite evident that when this impeachment process comes up tomorrow, likely it's going to come up likely tomorrow in the evening, that is when his own party might vote against him in favor of the impeachment, which has been brought in again for the second time by the opposition. And this time it seems that it would be quite difficult for President Yoon to survive this impeachment process, and he might have to go now.
So his party now has turned against him, unlike what happened last time when he had survived the impeachment vote. What happens if South Korea's parliament passes the impeachment bill?
Well, if you look at the process of the South Korean parliament, the National Assembly has about 300 seats, 300 members, out of which, you need the support of 2/3 majority to vote the president out through impeachment. Now, as of now, the opposition parties which have brought in this this impeachment process, they have about 192 members, which means that they are 8 short of the 2/3 majority which is required to impeach the president. But with his own party, the president's own party, People's Power Party, now supporting the impeachment process, getting that 200 seats minimum, I don't think that will be difficult, because they only need 8 members of the ruling party to kind of support this impeachment, where they will attain this 200 mark, and following which the impeachment process will be able to be concluded. Now, what happens after the impeachment done is kind of executed. The president steps down, and in that case, the prime minister, Han Duck-soo, who is the current prime minister, who also has a background of being a civil servant, is aware of the administrative processes of South Korea. So he will be taking over, and he will be conducting the presidential duties in the absence of the president. But again, the presidential election will have to be conducted within 60 days, and a new president will have to be installed for South Korea.
So let's see what really happens once the impeachment motion comes up to vote on Saturday. But we've also seen dramatic scenes, Amit, with South Korea's previous defense minister attempting suicide after arrest over the martial law decree. So the implications of the charges leveled are wide-ranging, isn't it?
Absolutely, Munmun. If you see the whole process, since the time this martial law was implemented, was enforced, it was again, of course, it was withdrawn within 6 hours. But it was surrounded by all sorts of controversies. In fact, a lot of people who were involved, who are supposed to be involved at the time, and this kind of martial law is implemented, they denied that they were aware of anything of this kind of a thing that is going to happen. In fact, the defense minister, who also claimed that he was not aware and he had no role to play in kind of enforcing this martial law, he resigned. And we saw a lot of, activities happening. There was a whole process of, investigation that was initiated against the president of the country. His residence was raided. And also, several military officials were questioned regarding this whole process. So there are multiple aspects which are involved which are happening at this point in time, and things could not get murkier as far as South Korean politics is concerned. Munmun?
Yes, we leave it at that. Amit Mukherjee reporting from New Delhi. The United States announced a new $500 million package of military aid for Ukraine on Thursday as Washington races to bolster Kiev before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States is providing another significant package of urgently needed weapons and equipment to Ukraine from US military stockpiles. The package, worth about $500 million, included ammunition for high mobility, artillery rocket systems and high-speed anti-radiation missiles, among other assistance. The $5.6 billion in Presidential Drawdown Authority provides Biden with significant flexibility in directing additional military aid to Ukraine without needing congressional approval, while the White House reaffirmed that US would continue to provide additional packages for Ukraine right up to the end of Biden's administration.
That also today the President approved a new security assistance package for Ukraine that will provide them with additional air defense, artillery, drones, and armored vehicles. It's the 72nd such drawdown package announced by the United States, and as the President made clear, we're going to continue to provide additional packages right up to the end of this administration.
NATO head Mark Rutte has warned the US-led transatlantic alliance on Thursday that it was not ready for the threats it would face from Russia in the coming years and called for a shift to a wartime mindset with much higher defense spending. Rutte said NATO members had spent more than 3% of GDP on defense during the Cold War, and future spending would have to be much higher than the current alliance target of 2%.
We are not ready for what is coming our way in 4 to 5 years. Danger is moving towards us at full speed. We can prevent the next big war on NATO territory and preserve our way of life. This requires us all to be faster and fiercer. It is time to shift to a wartime mindset and turbocharge our defense production and defense spending.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Taiwan detects Chinese military aircraft operating around the island. French president to name new prime minister. Brazilian president is recovering from a second brain surgery.
geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. Shifting focus to Taiwan-China tensions now. Taiwan on Friday said that in the past 24 hours it had detected 12 Chinese military aircraft operating around the island. According to the Defense Ministry, the Navy vessels along with 34 Chinese aircraft were spotted near Taiwan in the 24 hours. Beijing has been holding its biggest maritime drills in years from near the southern islands of Japan to the South China Sea. Taiwan authorities said this last week. And around 90 Chinese warships and Coast Guard vessels have been involved in the exercises that include simulating attacks on foreign ships and practicing blockading sea routes. Outgoing US President Joe Biden has issued presidential pardons to 39 Americans convicted of non-violent crimes and commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 other people. The White House released a pardon list of 39 people that said the individuals had committed either a non-violent offense or a non-violent drug offense. The 1,499 commuted sentences includes individuals who were placed in home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as those whose sentences Biden deemed to be too long due to outdated laws. The White House described it as the most acts of presidential clemency issued in a single day. The moves come over a week after the president signed an unconditional pardon for his son Hunter. Biden said the people he granted clemency would have received shorter sentences if charged under today's laws, policies and practices. The president added that he will take more steps in the weeks ahead and that his administration will continue reviewing clemency petitions. The United States welcomed the accord reached by Somalia and Ethiopia to end regional tensions sparked by Addis Ababa's push for maritime access. The two countries had been at loggerheads since landlocked Ethiopia struck a deal in January with Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland to lease a stretch of coastline for a port and military base. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken added Washington was looking forward to the technical negotiations that would spell out Ethiopia's sea access while respecting Somalia's territorial integrity. French President Emmanuel Macron has postponed the nomination of a new Prime Minister until Friday morning. 8 days after French MPs ousted Michel Barnier as Prime Minister in a no-confidence vote, Macron cut short a visit to Poland on Thursday and had been expected to come up with a new name on his return. Macron said 2 days ago he wanted to name a new head of government within 48 hours. The new team is due to replace the one led by Michel Barnier, who resigned last week after far-right and leftist lawmakers voted to topple his government. Macron has vowed to remain in office until his second term ends in 2027, despite Barnier's downfall last week. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is recovering positively from his latest surgery on Thursday. Lula underwent a second procedure on Thursday following his emergency surgery earlier this week to relieve bleeding in his skull. The president had an intracranial drain removed without complications and remains in ICU, doctors informed, adding he was lucid and speaking normally as he received family visits. President Lula will remain in intensive care and is expected to be discharged from Sao Paulo's Sírio-Libanês hospital early next week, when he might resume his presidential activities. Thousands of workers and supporters flooded the streets of Paris to protest against the growing number of redundancy plans and job losses affecting the French workforce. The demonstration, organized by prominent labor unions such as the General Confederation of Labour, Solidaires and the FSU, comes in response to a worsening economic situation marked by significant layoffs, restructuring and the dismantling of industrial sectors, marked by an upsurge in redundancy plans. The protesters are demanding urgent government action to protect jobs and support workers in industries facing decline. Pro-European Union protesters take to the streets for the 15th consecutive day in Tbilisi as Georgians rally against the newly elected Georgian government they consider illegitimate, protesting the government's decision to delay European Union membership talks amid a post-election crisis. The unrest in the region begins after Prime Minister's announcement on Thursday that Georgia would not seek accession talks with the EU until 2028, ignited a furious reaction from the opposition. Chaotic scenes unfolded for hours as police chased defiant protesters through the streets of central Tbilisi, beating them and making arrests. Moldova's parliament voted early on Friday to impose a national state of emergency for 60 days starting 16th of December due to an expected cut-off of Russian gas supplies from the 1st of January. 56 members in the 101-seat chamber backed the measure in the vote just after midnight, following Prime Minister Dorin Recan's call for approval. Declaring a state of emergency allows the government to respond rapidly and curb energy exports. Moldova receives Russian natural gas via Ukraine, which has said it will not extend its transit contract with Russian gas giant. Venezuelan authorities said on Thursday that they have released 103 people this week who had been arrested amid anti-government protests following last July's contested presidential election. The detainees were accused of terrorism and taken to maximum security jails after a crackdown following the re-election of Maduro. The government announced that more than 300 people have been released from prison, arrested in protests against the re-election of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Over 2,400 people were arrested during the unrest after the July 28 vote, which left at least 28 dead and nearly 200 injured. Maduro, who is to be sworn into office next month for a third six-year term, requested a review of the arrests following his re-election. Protests have largely petered out since September, when opposition leader González Urrutia went into exile in Spain after a warrant was issued for his arrest. The first Sherpas and central banks deputies meeting in South Africa, Johannesburg, made significant progress in shaping the G20 summit agenda, setting the tone for its leadership tenure. Governor of the South African Reserve Bank outlined South Africa's agenda to advance shared global goals through key priorities. Here's a report by Nazneen Ismail of DD India.
Today from Johannesburg, the first Sherpas and central banks deputies meeting in South Africa made significant progress in shaping the G20 summit agenda, focusing on global priorities like economic recovery, financial stability, and sustainable development. Key outcomes included continued fiscal and monetary support to tackle inflation, supply chain disruptions, and employment challenges. Emphasis on strengthening financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank to support emerging markets. Commitment to advancing the green transition and financing a low-carbon economy, especially for developing countries. Support for a rules-based multilateral trading system and collaboration on global digital infrastructure, as well as focus on addressing inequality, poverty, gender equality, and access to essential services. The meeting set the stage for deeper discussions at the G20 summit with a focus on both immediate recovery and long-term sustainability.
This is by far the most important track of the G20. We have the summit, which is where the big decisions are taken, but the real hard work is done by the finance track, because that is the history of the G20, to deal with global financial issues. South Africa believes it is time to focus on implementation, take stock of where we are vis-à-vis our objectives, and agree on how we accelerate progress towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The primary objective for our presidency, through our theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability, is to reinvigorate the spirit of multilateralism within the G20 finance track.
The meetings shall continue for the next year under the presidency of South Africa. So from the City of Gold, this is Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg.
The pottery craft of the Hmong people in Vietnam's Dak Lak province has been officially recognized as National Intangible Cultural Heritage by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism. The ethnic community has preserved their traditional pottery-making craft for centuries. The village stands as the last remaining ancient pottery center in the Central Highlands region. Each piece they create is one of a kind, handcrafted from local clay. In recent years, local authorities have organized classes in traditional Nong pottery making, ensuring the craft's survival for future generations. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. A unique and historically significant item, a tinselled garland worn by Mahatma Gandhi during the iconic Dandi March of 1930, remains open for bids after failing to meet its expected guide price at a UK auction this week. This garland, made of delicate folded paper wrappers inscribed in Gujarati, is believed to have been gifted to Gandhi as the Salt March passed near Ahmedabad, where Gandhi's personal physician, Dr. Balwant Rai in Kanunga, lived. BAFTA-winning actor Jude Law received the 27,900th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Jude Law has been a prominent figure in Hollywood for over 2 decades, known for his remarkable range in both film and television. His career boasts a variety of critically acclaimed roles, from his breakthrough performance in The Talented, Mr. Ripley, to his work in major franchises such as Sherlock Holmes and Fantastic Beasts. 3 dinosaur skeletons from the Jurassic period were sold at a London auction for a total of £8.4 million. All 3 were mounted and on display at Christie's London showrooms the day before the Jurassic icons Allosaurus and Stegosaurus auction. The skeletons were excavated in Wyoming. In July, a Stegosaurus fossil found in Colorado fetched a record $44.6 million at a Sotheby's auction. Lion cubs at London Zoo received a festive early Christmas treat this week, delighting in gifts designed to stimulate their senses. 9-month-old cubs Mali, Sinai and Shanti, who are experiencing their first Christmas, were given special presents infused with the sense of frankincense and myrrh. The cubs responded enthusiastically, sniffing and pawing at the gifts as they explored their new fragrant surroundings. In a workshop in a village in the Czech mountains, artisans create delicate Christmas decorations and ornaments with glass beads using technique that goes back more than a century. This intricate art form has been passed down through generations since the 1870s, making it a key part of the region's rich cultural heritage. Handcrafted designs that adorn Christmas trees around the world. Still to come on DD India News Hour. PM Modi discusses India, Middle East, Europe corridor with visiting Deputy PM of UAE in New Delhi. India's Ministry of Defence signs a contract with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited or HAL to procure 12 Su-30 MKI fighter jets. Cold wave grips North India while Met Department issues alerts of heavy rainfall in southern states. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munman Bhattacharya. Here's a recap of the headlines. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara as forces backed by the US-Turkey clash in Syria. A day ahead of parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law, voices to impeach Yoon growing stronger. Opposition leader says impeaching Yoon best way to restore order. Grateful nation remembers the martyrs on the 23rd anniversary of terrorist attack on Parliament of India. In sports, India's Gukesh dethrones Ding Liren, becomes world's youngest chess champion. President Draupadi Murmu and PM Narendra Modi hail the remarkable feat. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Parvathaneni Harish, addressed the UN Security Council on Afghanistan. Highlighting India's relations with Afghanistan, he asserted that India is actively engaged in regional and international efforts to maintain stability and peace in Afghanistan.
India is closely monitoring the situation in Afghanistan and has been actively engaged in regional and international efforts to maintain stability and peace in Afghanistan. Our broad approach remains to provide humanitarian and development assistance to the people of Afghanistan and to create an international consensus under the UN framework to resolve various issues between the de facto authorities in Afghanistan and the international community. Our participation in the UN meetings in Doha, in the Moscow format and other fora are a reflection of our efforts to secure peace, stability and development in Afghanistan.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday welcomed Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of UAE, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. In a meeting, both the leaders emphasized strengthening India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership, including in the areas of technology, energy and people-to-people ties. Furthermore, PM Modi laid special emphasis on the implementation of the India-Middle East-Europe corridor to foster regional connectivity and prosperity. He also expressed his optimism about the future of the India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership. Zayed Al Nahyan arrived in New Delhi to take part in the 4th Strategic Dialogue and the 15th India-UAE Joint Commission meeting. He also met India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Paulo Rangel, the Minister of State and Foreign Affairs of Portugal, arrived in Delhi on Thursday on his first official visit to India. India's Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal met with Paulo Rangel on Thursday. Both the leaders discussed ways to enhance trade, investment and economic cooperation between the two countries. According to a release by the External Affairs Ministry, Rangel will hold a crucial meeting with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Friday. Then on Saturday, he will participate in some programs in Goa. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Prayagraj, a city in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, to inspect the development works for Mahakumbh Mela 2025. Prime Minister will inaugurate and launch multiple development projects worth around 5,500 crore rupees at Prayagraj. He will inaugurate various projects for Mahakumbh 2025, including rail and road projects. In line with his commitment towards Swachh and Nirmal Ganga, Prime Minister will also inaugurate projects related to it. He will also inaugurate various infrastructure projects related to drinking water and power. Prime Minister will also inaugurate major temple corridors to ensure ease of access to devotees and also to boost spiritual tourism. The daily proceedings on the winter session of Indian Parliament to resume today with important bills tabled for discussion. The upper house of Parliament will take up private members' legislative business, while the lower house, that is the Lok Sabha, will be taking up readjustment of representation of scheduled tribes and assembly constituencies of the state of Goa Bill 2024 for consideration and passing. A discussion on the glorious journey of 75 years of the Indian Constitution is also slated to be held. Parliament, the heart of the nation's democracy, was targeted in one of the most audacious terror attacks in the history of India on the 13th of December 2001. The incident, which claimed the lives of 9 security personnel and left several injured, is remembered as a pivotal moment in India's fight against terrorism. On this day, 23 years ago, terrorists of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed attacked the Parliament complex in New Delhi. Around 11:40 a.m., 5 heavily armed terrorists disguised as official personnel drove into the Parliament premises in a white ambassador car. Their intention was to storm the building and cause large-scale destruction while the winter session of Parliament was in progress. However, their vehicle was intercepted by vigilant security personnel at the gate. A fierce gun battle ensued, lasting over 30 minutes. The terrorists were equipped with AK-47 rifles, grenades and explosives, making the confrontation extremely intense. The firing lasted for over 30 minutes, in which all 5 terrorists were killed, along with 8 security personnel, including Delhi police officers, personnel of the Central Reserve Police Force and a gardener. Their prompt action and sacrifice prevented what could have been a security disaster and deadly massacre inside the sanctum sanctorum of Indian democracy. The attack remains a stark reminder of the threats posed by terrorism and sacrifices of those who defend the nation. Every year on the anniversary of the attack, the President of India, the Prime Minister of India and other leaders pay tributes to those who made supreme sacrifice to defend the Parliament. The December 13 attack is commemorated annually to honor the martyrs who laid down their lives to protect India's democratic fabric. It stands as a testament to the resilience of the nation and its commitment to safeguarding its sovereignty. Anamika Pandey's report for DD India. President Draupadi Murmu paid tributes to the brave hearts who sacrificed their lives. Sharing a post on X, she wrote, and I quote, "I pay my humble tribute to the brave hearts who sacrificed their lives defending our Parliament on this day in 2001. Their courage and selfless service continue to inspire us. The nation remains deeply grateful to them and their families. On this day, I reiterate India's unwavering resolve to combat terrorism. Our nation stands united against the forces of terror." Anil Thomas, our correspondent, is joining us now for more on this. Anil, how are those who sacrificed their lives in the line of duty during the dastardly attack on the Indian Parliament on this day 23 years ago being remembered today?
Well, good morning, Munmun. Today marks the 23rd anniversary of that dastardly attack in 2001 on the citadel of democracy. It's a day of both tragedy and heroism that's permanently etched in the minds of people who covered it and for the rest of the world. It was just after that, live, it was the first live television moment, if one, puts a flashback on that particular moment in Indian television after that World Trade attack that we had seen in 2001. And when one goes to, 23 years down the memory lane, when one takes a look at it, the Vice President, the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Jagdeep Dhankar, along with the Speaker of Lok Sabha, Om Birla, Prime Minister, parliamentarians cutting across party lines, pay their respects inside the Parliament complex there to the 9 brave hearts who sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. And beyond that, there is always a blood camp that's been organized there in the Parliament premises, and also celebrations and remembrances of the brave heart, the gladiators who stood up, against that act of terrorism that India had seen in 2001 in the citadel of democracy. And, that particular moment is time and again, every winter session of Parliament, even when journalists are around the Parliament covering this particular session, everyone brings up this topic of, memories on how or what stories that they have heard about this particular attack. So all in all, this particular day is remembered, respects, floral tributes being paid in Parliament, and also across many parts of India, similar kind of events being organized.
Right, Anil, a somber moment indeed to reflect on the sacrifices made 23 years ago. Coming to today's business, there is a special discussion in Lok Sabha on the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of India. Tell us more about the issues that are expected to figure in Parliament today.
Well, this particular week 2 of Parliament, week 1 of Parliament was almost washed out. Week 2, in the first, I think on the Monday of week 2, Parliamentary Affairs Minister, after that all-party meeting with the Lok Sabha Speaker, managed to break the deadlock with regards to 2 days in being marked in Lok Sabha. That's today and tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, for discussions in the lower house, and Monday and Tuesday in the upper house. So in all likelihood today, from 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 noon till 5 p.m. tomorrow evening, we're going to see discussions, deliberations on the adoption of Constitution, and also in today's present day context, issues that are there before the government, issues that are there before the opposition that could be, making the headlines today, especially when this deliberations takes place in Parliament. The opposition is not going to waste an opportunity. The government is not going to waste an opportunity. So it's going to be, all issues that have not been discussed till now in this winter of session Parliament, that the government is raising, that the opposition is raising, making the headlines in this discussion of Constitution. There will be undercurrents of that very much evident when both parties speaks. There is a likelihood that, Priyanka Gandhi, who won her election from Wayanad, making a debut in Lok Sabha, going to lead the opposition front, or at least lead the Congress front when it comes to speaking on the Constitution. And from the other political parties, the DMK, SP, along with the LJP, have all indicated their spokespersons who are going to speak on this particular motion. And when it comes to the government, Prime Minister is expected to reply tomorrow in the Lok Sabha. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is going to initiate the discussion in the lower house, while Home Minister Amit Shah will initiate the discussion in the upper house when it takes place on Monday and Tuesday.
We'll leave it at that. Anil Thomas reporting from Newsroom in New Delhi. In a major push for Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, the Ministry of Defence signed a contract with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to procure 12 Su-30 MKI fighter jets. These aircraft will feature 62.6% domestic content, with key components to be manufactured by the Indian defence industry. This marks another milestone in India's journey towards self-reliance, boosting the capabilities of the Indian armed forces. On to some weather updates now. Delhi is witnessing its coldest morning of the season after temperatures dipped to 4.5 degrees Celsius on Thursday. According to the Weather Observatory, the minimum temperatures in North India, Northwest India and Central India will not experience any significant fluctuations over the next 4 to 5 days. Cold wave conditions are likely to persist until December 16th in parts of Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Isolated parts of Rajasthan will also likely face cold wave conditions until the 16th of December. The cold wave has also gripped the North Indian hill town of Shimla after the region received a fresh spell of snowfall. The Indian Met Department has predicted heavy rainfall across multiple southern states, including Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. The Weather Department had predicted above normal rainfall in most parts of peninsular India, West Central India and some areas of East Central and Northeast India. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news. India's Vaishno Devi Shrine in Jammu and Kashmir sees over 90 lakh devotees for third straight year. As per the authorities, over 95 lakh devotees had visited the shrine in 2023. The Chief Executive Officer of the Shrine Board that efforts are underway to provide more facilities for the devotees and that the footfall in Katra will increase with the improvement in connectivity. 7 people, including a child, lost their lives in a fire at a private hospital in India's Chennai on Thursday. The incident took place on Thursday night at the city hospital on Trichy Road. Initial investigations by the police suggest the fire may have been caused by an electric short circuit. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Global sales of fully electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles continue to rise for a 7th consecutive month in November. India hockey team thrashes Thailand, reaches semi-finals of Women's Junior Asia Cup. And we'll show you how Australia's Sydney is sparkling in Christmas season.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. Good news for the economy as India has achieved a remarkable milestone in its economic journey with gross foreign direct investment inflows reaching an impressive $1 trillion since April 2000. This landmark achievement was bolstered by a nearly 26% rise in FDI to $42.1 billion during the first half of the current financial year. Initiatives like Make in India, liberalized sectoral policies and the goods and services tax have enhanced investor confidence, while competitive labor costs and strategic incentives continue to attract multinational corporations. The European Central Bank cut interest rates for the 4th time this year on Thursday and kept the door open to further easing ahead as inflation continues to cool. The latest round of cuts sees the deposit rate, the ECB's main rate, fall to 3%. The ECB's rates setting council has also reduced its main lending rate, of which tracker mortgages are priced at the same pace, to 3.15%. ECB President Christine Lagarde described as uncertainty in abundance. Lagarde said the policymakers settled unanimously on 25 basis points, taking the ECB's deposit rate to 3%. The central bank also removed an earlier reference in its guidance to keeping interest rates sufficiently restrictive to 3% from 3.25%. It was at a record 4% only in June. With Thursday's decision, the ECB also cut the rate at which it lends to banks for 1 week to 3.15% and for 1 day to 3.4%. Global sales of fully electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles rose for a 7th consecutive month in November, jumping 32% year-on-year for a 3rd consecutive record high. China continued to lead sales growth, accounting for almost 70% of total EV sales in the month, while registrations in Europe showed a marginal decline. In the United States and Canada, EV sales were up 16.8%, while Europe had sales of 0.28 million, down slightly year on year, but up 7.7% from October. In the rest of the world, sales were flat against November 2023. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the sports action. India's Grandmaster Gukesh has scripted history by becoming the youngest ever chess champion on Thursday. Gukesh defeated Ding Liren of China in the decisive Game 14 of the World Chess Championship in Singapore to clinch the title. Here's a report.
And capture the significance of this moment.
History was made as 18-year-old Indian GM Gukesh defeated Chinese GM Ding Liren in the final Game 14 of the World Chess Championship to become the youngest world champion in the history of the sport. With his monumental win, Gukesh has become the 18th GM and just the second Indian GM after the legendary Vishwanathan Anand to win the World Championship title. The defending champion was pushed to his absolute limits as well, with Gukesh leaving him flustered in the endgame, eating away at Ding's time. Nearing the end, the Chinese GM was left scrambling with less than 10 minutes left on the clock, while Gukesh sat comfortably with over an hour as the pressure mounted. Gukesh's persistence paid off as Ding blundered whilst fighting against the clock, allowing Gukesh to take over and find the historic win. India's President Draupadi Murmu congratulated chess grandmaster Gukesh on his historic World Championship win. She took to social media platform X and said, "Heartiest congratulations to Gukesh for becoming the youngest player to win the World Chess Championship. He's done India immensely proud. His victory stamps the authority of India as a chess powerhouse. Well done, Gukesh. On behalf of every Indian, I wish you sustained glory in the future." India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated chess grandmaster Gukesh for being crowned World Chess Champion. Prime Minister Modi wrote on X, and I quote, "Historic and exemplary. Congratulations to Gukesh D on his remarkable accomplishment. This is the result of his unparalleled talent, hard work and unwavering determination. His triumph has not only etched his name in the annals of chess history, but has also inspired millions of young minds to dream big and pursue excellence. My best wishes for his future endeavours." Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Mansukh Mandviya also congratulated Gukesh on his triumph. "Chess prodigy, extending my warm wishes to Gukesh for clinching the prestigious World Chess Championship title and becoming the youngest world champion in the history of chess. Your hard work and dedication has made the entire nation proud." In his career, Gukesh has already quoted plenty of history, but for now, he'll savor the feeling of being a world champion, a dream he has held and chased with single-minded dedication since he was 11. Mehraj Singh's report, DD India.
India's Gukesh etched his name in the annals of chess history when he became the youngest champion at the age of 18. The 18th world champion at the age of 18 is 4 years younger than Garry Kasparov, who had set the record in 1985. The Indian Grandmaster had qualified for the championship after winning the candidates tournament earlier this year. The historic triumph marks Gukesh's outstanding journey. He outperformed Vishwanathan Anand as the top-ranked Indian chess player and clinched India's maiden chess Olympiad gold in 2023. He is the second Indian after the legendary Vishwanathan Anand to clinch the title. Anand bagged the crown 5 times. The sport, which originated in India, has found an exemplary torchbearer in Gukesh, who would inspire young minds to dream big and pursue excellence. India have progressed to semi-finals of Women's Junior Asia Cup after they thrashed Thailand 9-0 in their 4th pool match in Muscat. Deepika Kumari stole the show with an impressive 4 goals, while Kanika Sewaj delivered a hat-trick to seal the win. India started the game strong, dominated the possession and continued with their scoring spree. Thailand players were unable to fend off attacks, resulting in the lopsided encounter. India will next face Japan in the semi-finals on 14th December. They've also sealed a spot in the next year's Junior World Cup to be held in Chile. Indian cricketer Hardik Pandya is the most searched Indian sportsperson across the globe in 2024 as per the Google Year in Search. The India all-rounder is ranked 7th amongst the most searched sportspersons worldwide. He made vital contributions to India's win in the T20 World Cup against South Africa. While cricket dominated the search trends in India this year, no Indian sports team made it to the top 10 among the most searched teams in the world. In sports trends in India, the Indian Premier League, T20 World Cup and the Olympics occupied the top 3 slots. Christmas light displays and decorations thrilled onlookers in Sydney as the festive season kicked off in the Australian harbour city. Sydney's largest Catholic cathedral, St. Mary's, was illuminated with colourful projections portraying scenes from Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platforms. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.